I'll let you drive, Guy.
Yeah, I can drive. Okay, we're already counting down. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name's Guy. I'm Chief Innovation Officer for Omnicom Media Group, and I run a business called What's Next?
Hi, Andy Baker, CEO of Smartlife and chairman of two other businesses. And it's unfortunately called a serial entrepreneur. I don't know what that means, but allegedly I start a lot of businesses and then sell them.
Okay. So apologies from me in advance. I've got a slight cold, so I hope you can hear what I'm saying. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the Internet of Things, and we're going to talk about wearables specifically. And Andy's going to talk about some of the things that Smartlife does. But before we start, I had about 10 charts explaining what the Internet of Things was, and then last night one of my team found a really good video. So we're going to show the video instead. Apologies, they sent it to me unsourced, so I don't know where it comes from. So apologies if it's your company that I've stolen this from. Okay.
Your next refrigerator may know more about your diet than your doctor. How many objects do you have that are connected to the internet? About a decade ago, you probably would have said one or maybe two if you were an early adopter of smartphone technology. But today, I've got a work computer, I've got a personal computer, I've got a tablet, I've got a smartphone, I've got a video game console, I've got a media player, I've got a smart TV, I even have a smart refrigerator. Now, extend this trend outward, and what do we get? Well, it's estimated by 2020, there will be 50 billion objects connected to the internet. Now that's billion with a B. It's also estimated by the US Census Bureau that there will be 7.6 billion people alive at that time. So that means that for every person, there will be 6.6 objects connected to the internet. We're talking about a world blanketed with billions of sensors. These sensors are taking information from real physical objects that are in the world and uploading it to the internet. It's a world where your environment transforms as you walk through it, because technology that you may not even be aware of is monitoring your every move. It's a world that's constantly changing all around us due to these sensors and the internet, and we call it the Internet of Things. Let's stroll into the living room of the future. Now, immediately, this room identifies you and taps into a cloud-based profile of preferences like climate control, music, lighting, and decor. Had a long day at work? The room knows, based on the calendar app on your phone and biosensors that detect the stress via blood pressure and heart rate. So it turns off the rockabilly surf guitar you usually listen to and switches to a more soothing classical music. From environmental sensors outside and maybe even worn within your clothing itself, it knows it was snowing earlier. So the climate control begins to crank up the heat in anticipation as you walk through the door. Now, on the software side, we're talking about algorithms that are so sophisticated, they may be able to predict what you want before you know you even wanted it. So when you walk to the refrigerator, it tells you not only what's in there, it tells you what you can make with the stuff you already have. And it's already telling you what's inside and what's the perfect meal based upon your mood, your activity level, and maybe even, well, your weight loss plan for some of us. As for how many objects could be connected to the internet, well, consider this. The latest version of Internet Protocol, IPv6, creates more potential addresses than there are atoms on the surface of the Earth. So we're going to live in a world completely filled with sensors, with data, reacting to us, changing every moment dependent upon our needs. I'm no longer going to be asking you, hey, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite music? I'm going to ask you, what's your reality like? I know what mine is when I walk into my house, how the world reacts to me, but how does it react to you? This is more than philosophy. It's more than technology. It is altering reality as we know it. And it's all regulated by the Internet of Things.
Okay. Oh, so thank you, Toyota, for that, because that's actually it's actually very good. So a couple of things from that, which possibly may sound a little bit scary. But one thing to remember, what is the Internet of Things? Basically, physical objects that are connected to one another or to the web to provide information or utility about the object or the environment, right? Not to be confused with something else that's very important, which is CEOs. Now, you might think that CEOs are your boss, but you're wrong. CEOs are content-enabled objects. Okay? Content-enabled objects, which are things tagged with an additional layer of digital content. And we can do interesting things in that space now through use of packaging, where we can unlock various experiences through interacting with labels and packaging, etc. Because you've probably all seen the Diageo example, right? Which is a really good one that was done in South America, in Venezuela, I think it was. Anyway, somewhere in South America last Father's Day, and what you're able to do is you can put your own video film message onto the bottle of Johnny Walker. I forget which Johnny Walker it was. It might be Johnny Walker Black by the look of things. And then your father on Father's Day could unlock the message through both the bottle and using the code on the bottle, which is really good. So it's taking it beyond the QR code. The QR code, which I just shared, this is one of my very good friends who works in a different business. It's always good to talk to people who don't work in this industry but work in other businesses. She refers to QR codes as the tramp stamp of marketing, which I think is what's that?
So don't look on the back of your passes, please. Okay.
Okay. So why does this matter? So often when I'm starting to talk about this, people start to say, "Yeah, that's very nice, Guy, but that's A, it's not happening in Asia, and B, it's 5 years away or 10 years away, and we don't need to worry about it at all." This is where you're wrong, okay? And that's why the law of accelerating returns kicks in. So the law of accelerating returns is this, from Kurzweil's prediction, that due to exponential change, paradigm shifts will continue to become increasingly common, leading to technological change so rapid and so profound that it represents a rupture in the fabric of human history. This picture on the bottom is from a business called Little Bits. Does anyone know Little Bits? Littlebits.cc, fantastic. What it is a company that's democratizing the making of electronics. So what they have there is the whole bunch, everything in a circuit is just in one unit. So some of you may know something about electronics from when you did physics at high school, and you remember drawing circuit diagrams, etc. What Little Bits is doing is made everything that you need in one unit, and you just magnet clip it together. So you can they've got a project, it's very cool, go and have a look at it. It's a project that they are doing with Korg synthesizers, for those of you who know something about music, and it's a project to make your own analog synthesizer just using switches from a kit. That's all it is, just switches from a kit, and it's democratizing manufacturing of electronics. The head of that's a woman called Aya Badir. She's fantastic. She's well worth following on Twitter and elsewhere, because what she's talking about at the moment is how important it is to have a project to democratize the Internet of Things. And what she says quite clearly is, because if we don't, the Internet of Things will be taken over by advertisers and just use it to advertise stuff to us. Okay? So she's very interesting. So the law of accelerating returns. And what this means in effect is today is the slowest rate of technological change you will ever see. When you wake up tomorrow morning, that day will be the slowest rate of technological change you will ever see. This picture is of a drum kit. It's taken at CES this year. And what's particularly special about this drum kit is it's all completely 3D printed, as indeed are all of the instruments that the particular band were playing. They're all 3D printed, although of course you've got to do the wiring and whatever for your instruments. Now, why is that amazing? Because 9 months ago, at the end of March 2013, the first digital scanner was made available for a 3D printer. So previously you had to make your own molds for a 3D printer, but now you could scan it. And you could scan an object about the size of a Coke can. That's what you could do. So it went from that, the first 6-inch scannable objects that you could then print, to printing a drum kit in 9 months. So if we think that the speed of change is not going to happen particularly quickly, it is. It's going to happen a lot faster than you think it is, and it's very important to be across these ideas now rather than trying to wait for them to just happen around you. So you saw in the video they were saying that there's going to be at least 50 billion objects by the end of 2015. Only a quarter of those would be smartphones and tablets. There's other people who say other things. Bonenboff from Mondelez Foods says by the end of 2020, everything in the grocery store will be connected to the internet, which is another way of thinking about it. All of this means that you're going to create an enormous volume of data. And our client Cisco have done a range of really good infographics around this, but one of the most interesting ones is that they're telling us that by the end of this year, the Internet of Things will create more data than the entire internet did in 2008. The Internet of Things more than the entire internet in 2008 in terms of the volume of data. So there's obviously enormous volumes of data that's being created. And what you're going to get to is a situation of confluence, so where all the sensors all around you are forming connections, pulling it up into the cloud. You can then unhook those via various devices. It'll probably be a smartphone in most cases, and then you can then share and socialize that either amongst other internet-connected objects or amongst human beings as well, going all the way through. And so the IoT is driving this complete confluence of data around us. That's a picture of a shark. Why is there a picture of a shark up there? Because in Australia, what they've done is to tag sharks. And so instead of everybody going to the beach and panicking because there's a shark around, you can just follow the shark's Twitter feed to see where it actually is. And unfortunately, in this particular case, the shark is a long way away from where it could do the most good. So also in this example, also even cows. So this is a Dutch startup called Sparked, which is using wireless sensors on cattle, so that when the farmer can just check and monitor from each cow what the state of that cow's health is and to determine whether something needs to be done. As I say, each cow generating more than 200 megabytes of data per year. So we've got sharks and we've got cows. And very soon you're going to have a reality where the objects start to talk to each other and develop their own intelligence. So in this example, okay, your meeting's been pushed back 45 minutes. We know that from your calendar. Your car knows that it needs to fill up with gas, so it'll send the message about that. From the internet, you'll know that there's an accident on your usual driving route, so it's going to take you 15 minutes longer to get to work. Or if you live in Singapore and you've got a 9 o'clock meeting and you've got to take a taxi, you're going to know that you're going to have to probably leave the night before in order to get there in time. So so all of these will then communicate back to your alarm clock, which will then say, you know what, I'm going to let you sleep in for another 5 minutes or another 10 minutes, or, with the Singapore rain taxi example, you might as well stay in bed all day, it's fine. So all of this is going to become a reality very soon. So the first place where this is taking place is the area of the quantified self. That's the first battlefield, if you like. So at CES this year, the amount of floor space that was taken up by wearables, sports and fitness gadgets was 30% more than in previous years. The amount that was taken up by digital health and related technologies was 40% more. Now I'm going to let Andy talk about the sports and fitness stuff, and I'll talk a little bit about digital health. And there was stuff that's talking about the home, right? There's an example here from Plum, and Plum's basically showing the status and showing you the lights on situation in various rooms of the house. But the home-based usage of this type of technology isn't really taking off particularly quickly because the utility for consumers is not necessarily clear, right? In some of the examples we're going to show, the utility is very clear, but some of the home-based stuff is not so much. So if you think about digital health, you've all seen the Intel baby suit, right? Fantastic. Instead of having to listen to, those baby monitors where you have to listen to see what noise your baby's making, it's fine because the suit has all of the data and it will tell you when you need to be concerned. And there's also all sorts of smart diapers and a lot of things, a lot of different devices in this sort of space. And that's really good because it's really easy from a brand's perspective to see how the brand can play a role in this, either an educational role or a gamification role or various other types of overlays that you can put onto this. Another example is Teddy the Guardian. Teddy Bear actually collects data about the life signs from your baby and will report that back to mum. Again, the utility of that is really reasonably obvious and reasonably clear. This is slightly different, but I'm still counting as digital health. This is the application that made the most noise at South by Southwest this year, which is Scully. Scully's a smart motorcycle helmet. What it does is it puts navigational data onto your front screen. It also has backwards-facing cameras that project onto your front screen, and is the whole it'd be illegal here, I should think, but that shows the most utility in terms of making that riding a motorbike to being a safer experience than it has been previously. And one that I really like, which is Adhere Tech Smart Pillbox, which tracks your usage and taking of drugs and follows you around, reminding you about that during the course of the day. Now, the thing with these digital health applications is the utility to consumers is quite obvious and quite clear, and therefore people will take it up. The way that brands can play a role is also reasonably clear. What's not quite so clear is in the case of sports and related wearables. So Andy, I'll let you talk through what you're doing with Smartlife.
Thank you. Cheers, Guy. Hopefully I'll speak a little bit slower, so you may understand. I know we had to do a 45-minute presentation in 30 minutes, so Guy's just done 30 minutes in 15, which is brilliant. So it leaves more time for myself. Wearable tech has been talked about in most cases in terms of managing your body and how you look at managing your body systems. Some of the major issues you have with managing that, everybody started by wearing it on their wrist. And that wrist is a good guide. It tells you how often you walk and wave and talk expansively in meetings, etc. But it's not a good indicator of the key signs. So most of the algorithms at the wrist are a guess. It is guessing what you do and how you use it. So we want to take away the guesswork. My job was to try and take away the guesswork by putting it somewhere we could actually use and utilize on a daily basis. So first time we looked at it, and could we put it inside shirts, shorts, and in ladies' cases, as it's been highlighted, bras. To my detriment, I found out there are 76 different types of bra I have to make, where there's only 7 shirts I have to make for fat men, but equally, we're still making 76 different versions. But once you start putting sensors into garments, which are knitted and comfortable, it becomes about your body at all times. It is not just your vest. We can read your heart rate from your shorts, which is fairly new. He says, pushing on. This is the signal your body gives off 24/7. This is raw signal that comes off your body from all the different muscle groups, your heart, your lungs are constantly giving out. If you're fairly smart, which fortunately the PhD guys at Smartlife are, they're allowed to split out the various different instruments that are in the massive noise you've just seen. Now, at the bottom, you can see a standard heart rate. But the red line in that noise is where that heart rate should be. That's the actual path it takes during that time. That red line is your respiratory rate. That's how often you breathe in and out. So for 2 key things I can tell you immediately about you 24 hours a day is your heart rate and your respiratory rate. Now, put that into the Internet of Things, and we start to get into real good areas of how can we use and utilize that data. So I'm going to sort of demonstrate. I've got a little line I have to go and stand on because I've got to go on camera. Here we go. So put down clicker. That's there on. So those who want to come and play with the garment, you can later. This is a knitted sensor. This is made from silver and knitted into a standard garment. This will go in a t-shirt, shorts, and anywhere else. And it's a very simple and easy way to look at it. This then goes round to the rear of the garment, in this case, into a small pocket, and fits into a small piece of electronics. This electronics reads your heart rate. So me placing my 2 thumbs on there like that now, it is reading my heart rate and connecting back to my device on the chair itself. Now if I put 20 of these together, or 15 or 11, I'm now reading an entire sports team at the side of a football pitch. I'm also, with my son, I can see his activity on a daily basis, not only at school, on the way to and from school, and during his sport and other things that they do. But heart rate and respiratory rate is just the start. You've got EEG, EMG, these are things like your muscle movements, your galvanic stim response, how much you sweat, and various other things that we can do. So the body's going to start giving off a lot more signals 24/7, and this is where the marketing world have suddenly got to realize then how do we change the way we communicate with people. So once you've got this far, and you've got it in the app, how do you then communicate as marketeers to me? If my heart rate's at 200 beats per minute and respiratory rate's off the scale, the last thing I want to know is about my nearest place to grab a coffee. I want to actually tell me my more important thing. You can see from my mobile on my phone, I'm running towards the train station. With the calendar in line, tell me my train's on time, I'm going to make it, I can slow down and relax. Then maybe when my heart rate has returned to a normal rate, I can then go and buy a coffee. These things are going to happen, they are happening. These garments are going to be distributed in their millions across the world with deals that have presently been done and achieved. So hopefully you're seeing it today before it goes in the market. But the data it gives off will be in the market a lot sooner than you anticipate. To go.
You've still got 2 more. That's still you.
Yeah. So I was asked, what's next? Because I've done a few businesses over the last few years. So once we've gone past wearable tech, where do we go next? With brand models, we're looking at obviously distributing this with major retailers. We're also looking at full service. How do we get this into drinks partners who want to understand that data? Drugs companies who actually get this data and use it more effectively to manage their programs for drugs. So most of the people, they need to measure their heart rates for the drug companies and put them into hotels. Now they can let them leave the hotel, go and do their present thing, and the information will be being back to them 4 times a day. It saves people like GSK about £350 million a year just in their drugs programs. And data, I think, is going to become one of the most key things that we'll use. And working with Omnicom Media Group and everybody else, we're understanding the impacts of this data and how we can apply it to the media buys going forward.
Okay. So why does all this matter to people in media business? Well, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, in the very near future, anything can be media, and that just means that we need to stop thinking about channels and take a more consumer-centric approach and think of it from the consumer outward rather than thinking of what used to be 5 channels and then became 17 channels and now it's however many it is, and thinking how do we use that to target people. We've got to think outwards, and some of the data that's going to be collected through firstly wearables and then the Internet of Things in households is going to allow us to do that. But we need to be really thoughtful because, frankly, nobody wants a fridge that advertises to them, really. So it might be really good to say, oh, Ma, you're out of milk, fantastic, our milk brand here, and perhaps you'd like to go and buy some. But actually, very few people are going to want fridges that advertise to them. Maybe some people will. The other thing is that advice is clearly one thing. Advising people on the correct behaviour based on data that they're giving is one thing, but lecturing them is another. And what you can easily see with a lot of wearables, not Andy's ones, but less good ones like I wear, is that they're moving from simply the collection of data through to advising you what you should do about it in a very nannying and hectoring way. Now, some people might like that, but other people may not, and so you've got to be careful with that. What you have to do is to provide utility to the consumer. There has to be an experience that was worth something of value to them. The big point, I think, is this is a small data story. You hear a lot about big data, but this is not about big data. This is about small data. It's all about connecting small packets of data that are generated by individual consumers and in many cases held by non-traditional media owners like Andy. So Andy is going to have lots of data, and if we want to understand how to understand what happens when people are wearing his shirts, which is going to be a lot of people across lots of different brands, then he's going to be holding that data. So it's connecting the data. We might have smart TV data, we might have fridge data, we may have wearable data. How do we connect that around individual consumers and look at that longitudinally? So don't think about big data, but about small data. So when we think about that small data, the connected packets, that allows us to join the dots and be a little bit anticipatory and to have some serendipity in the experience for consumers.
So I was asked, I'll try again. What's next? Well, I think
what's next, Andy?
the rise of the company that looks after my data. So I'm going to have millions of people's heart rate, millions of people's personal information. Why should Smartlife profit from that data? So why can't me, as my own consumer of data, profit from that data? Why should Google, Facebook, Weibo, and other organizations make billions off my own data? So I believe in the next few years we're going to see the rise, as we're starting to see with social networks, is having open social networks that don't get access to the data. It's deleted. Whereas me as a person can start to sell my own data. And I can get rewards from it. If I'm driving smarter now, I can get reduced insurance. If I am healthier and wearing garments that show I'm healthier, why can't I then get reduced drug costs? There is lots of impacts for myself, my family, my group of friends, where I can get this information and actually benefit from it. Where brands will want to contact me directly, because if I'm going to buy a new car, they know my travel patterns, my expense, and everything else I'm willing to give out as personal information. I'm not aspirationally trying to buy that car. I can actually afford that car. So if you want to be one of the 4 car companies I'll consider, and one of the 2 car companies that I will test drive and be the ultimate car I will drive, then instead of spending all that money marketing to them, market to me and give me a discount. This is coming. This is going to happen in the next 3 to 4, 5 years. But as we know, this will accelerate so fast into the marketplace, as Facebook and other methods did, it will start to dismediate the media in some way. It may only take 4, 5, 6% to dismediate you guys, but it's going to happen. Same as crowdsourcing happened at dismediating the creative agencies. Crowdsourcing could never be part of the creative medium. It is now standard part of creative in most of the big organizations that I work with. So consider this when you're looking at managing data, and what can you give back to the individual when you have that data.
Yeah. So just as some of those people can be able to sell their data to health insurers to say, look, I'm living such a healthy lifestyle, people like me are going to be penalized.
Yay!
Yay, about time too, for not living a healthy lifestyle, because even if I refuse to share data, there may be an expectation that I do. So in the future, a lot of decisions that you make are going to have some consequences down the line. So just to finish up, it's an exciting future. The Internet of Things and the world of sensors is going to mean that we can anticipate and predict consumer needs in a much better way than saying you're 18 to 35-year-olds, therefore you probably read magazines. We're going to be able to segment based on people's actual behavior at an individual level rather than broad attitudinals. We're going to be able to throw off the shackles of demographics and think about individuals and how to influence individuals, and be able to personalize messages and experience. So just to end with, as Andy said and as I said, please don't think this is 5 years down the track and you don't have to worry about it for a bit. You should start thinking about it now. At Omnicom Media Group, we always tell people when they're looking at new clients, what's the data story? What's the data story here? And the data story isn't just about trading and targeting. The data story is about small data and how you can connect up these little packets of data that people are going to be increasingly going to be able to generate. And that's basically it. And I think we have 1 minute and 11 seconds if anybody has a question. And somebody at the back does have a question.
No. We have questions.
The man with the mic.
It's for you, I'm sure, Andy. So.
Microphone coming to you.
Hi guys, George Patton from Accenture. Very interesting talk. We all agree with the notion of one-to-one marketing, but based on your findings and your thoughts, do you think mass media is dead?
Do you want me to do that?
Go on, you can do first.
I
know George too well.
I don't think mass media is dead at all. But I think that increasingly that there are still some things that you will want to do. Different media do different things, and there are different tasks. And I think there's very much going to be a role for mass media for some time to come. But what we have to realise is that people being exposed to thousands of messages per day, and it's not just messages anymore, it's demands for their time and demands for their engagement. So we know that now we want people to, everybody wants everybody to watch a 3-minute piece of short form content now, and various other engagement experiences we want people to go through. So people are going to be more and more fussy and less willing to give their time. So understanding people at you might not get to absolute individual levels, but understanding people at a very small level is going to be important going forward, but there will be a role for mass media as well.
Andy, any alternative views?
I agree, because that clock says 000.
All right. Are there any other questions? I have one for you, Andy. Just now you said there were 76 designs of bras.
Sizes of bras.
Sizes. I thought there were just 4, A, B, C, D.
Allegedly, it's 32s, 30s, 34, 36. You start to times that.
Ladies, he's studied it.
Yeah.
But seriously, I don't know whether you could feel it here on stage, but certainly standing off stage, here you are trying to convince us that this time is already here and folks get used to it, this is already upon us. Did you feel the palpable fear in the room? Did you feel it? You're all a little bit hesitant about all of this, am I right? You're all a bit worried? Let me ask you, Andy, in view of the fact that people are already resisting accepting an anonymous Bluetooth message because it could be from a marketer, how willing are we really going to be to allow all of that personal information to be harnessed, even if it is to get, the fridge to order the milk automatically or to get cheaper life insurance?
Sort of the easiest way to say it is 10 years ago, you signed up for deals that now give us an immense amount of data. It's called one of these. If you'd have said 10 years ago, one of you was first given, and I could make a phone call to my children at home, and I can now FaceTime them, all the other information that this device would then give, none of us would have signed up for this in the first place.
We would have been too scared, that's your point.
So it's the same principle. This is going to happen, and it'll come by stealth, or you accept it willingly. But health manufacturers, drugs, if I need a new liver, it'll be invasive technology. They'll put the sensor next to my liver, and that will then communicate. This is all 4 or 5 years from now. The pill inside, the ability to swallow a camera now, this is all coming. This is all getting smaller, smarter, and quicker.
All right, if you're still scared, you can beat them up over lunch. Thanks very much, Guy Hearn and Andy Baker.